The Maxwell equation part 5. In my last lecture, I put the entire effort to find out the solution of the electromagnetic wave in such medium, that means the isotropic, lossless, source-free and homogeneous medium. So lossless was defined as the sigma, or the conductivity was equals to 0. Once you will consider the conductivity will be 0, this attenuation constant will become the 0. So there will be no attenuation. However, the phase constant will not be 0, because phase constant represents the propagation of the wave, how faster it is propagating within a particular medium with respect to with respect to space. So that is the phase constant. So being sigma equals to 0 will not make it is 0. Beta is 0 means the wave is not propagating at all. So there is the cutoff for this particular wave. We'll later we'll see when we'll study the waveguide. We'll see that for certain number of waves, the waveguide will not support the propagation for those waves. So we will have the beta not defined for those waves. We will see later. But here, since I have considered the medium is extended up to infinity. Extended up to infinity means there is no boundary, and you should remember that I did not use any kind of boundary condition, because I have found the solution for the wave function in general, because the medium was extended up to infinity. So that is why the solution of the wave equation within the infinite medium is like this, and the phase constant was represented by these expressions when sigma is equals to the conductivity is equals to 0, which implies the medium is a lossless medium. And finally, the phase constant, the magnitude part of the phase constant, which I have modeled in terms of this factor, and this omega by c naught can be written as k naught, and k naught represents the wave number in free space. So the propagation constant within a particular medium is equals to the wave number times the refractive index. Next, we have seen this equation serves as a solution for the wave equation what I have derived for this particular medium. So, and this function represents the propagation of the wave, because if you take real part of this equation, so that real part is nothing but a cosine function of its phase, that is omega t minus k dot r. If you consider further that your wave is propagating along a particular direction, that is the z direction, so this dot product will reduce to one dimensional propagation, that is the kz times the z. And considering this function as the phi, so this one like this, considering this function as a phi, we have seen that the phi represents the phase on a constant plane. So basically the propagation of the wave was represented by the propagation of those planes having constant phase. So if you can find the propagation of this phase which is constant on a particular plane, so that will represent your propagation of the wave. And this animation represented the propagation of the wave, where these planes, the red planes, blue planes, these represent the planes of constant phase. As I told, this red plane, say for example, represents the peak, positive peak magnitude, then it is going to 0, 0 represented by green, then it is reducing to negative peak, that is the blue, and then it is increasing to again 0, and again it is attaining its positive peak. So this represents the propagation of the wave, and that is why they are called plane wave, because the propagation of the wave is represented by the propagation of the planes within any infinite medium, that may be a free space or maybe any other medium which is extended up to infinity. The propagation of the wave takes place the form of the free space, plane wave, as shown over here. And this is the direction of the wave propagation, where kz represents the wave number, that means the number of wave or the number of cycles it has within a particular distance, that is generally be counted within a range of 2 pi. So number of cycle within this direction, within the z direction, is represented by this kz. So in turn, that kz represents the propagation of the wave in this particular direction, that is the z direction. Similar to this, kx represents the propagation of the wave along the x direction, ky represents the propagation wave along the y direction, and all summation of them, that means when they are being represented by a vector, that is the k or beta, so they represents the propagation of the wave in three-dimensional space. The next concept what I have discussed in my earlier lecture, that was the concept of group velocity and the phase velocity, and that has been discussed using this simple animation. So this black one represents the composite wave, which is made up these two component waves. So first one is representing one phase and the second one is representing another phase. Phase means two different wavelengths propagating with different velocity or different speed. So since they are being used to construct this composite wave, so therefore they are forming an envelope. So that envelope is actually representing the group, and the propagation of that envelope is the propagation of the group velocity. Whereas the phase velocity is nothing but the phase within the envelope. So that has been represented by this green dot over here. You can see the propagation of the phase velocity and the group velocity. So in this case, the group velocity is much more faster than the phase velocity, but there are cases where the phase velocity may be the faster than the group velocity, and in those cases, if the wave propagates through the dispersive medium, so group velocity dispersion can take place, and that is a major disadvantage when group velocity dispersion takes place in a particular medium. So that means the signal broadens and the gain falls. Next was the polarization of the plane wave. So polarization means the direction along which this electric field is oscillating. So basically this e to the power j omega t minus k dot r, this represents the propagation of the wave along a particular direction, while this represents the oscillation of the electric field uh, along any direction. So since this is the vector, so that oscillation can take place in any three direction, including the direction it is propagating. So therefore, if the oscillation of the electric field takes place along the y direction, so the wave is propagating along the z direction, so that wave will be called the y directed or y polarized wave. Similarly, this will be called as x polarized wave, this will be called as z polarized wave. But in this case, if such equation takes place where this electric field takes all of its component, then the resultant electric field will be somewhere other than this x, y and z. And we have seen that using this equation, that divergence of E will be equals to 0. This equation dictates further limitations in the polarization. So that means if we apply the divergence over this equation, so that results in this. So that is a k dot E naught. That represents this as the k represents the direction of the propagation and electric field. This represents the polarizations, that is the direction along which the electric field is oscillating. So their dot product is equals to 0, which signifies that the electric field cannot oscillate along the direction of the propagation, because if you take say for example it is kz as it is propagating along the z direction, so if you take kz, obviously the dot product will result in kz dot e naught z. That means the e naught z is the component which exists or which represents the propagation of the oscillation of the electric field along the direction of the propagation, and that represents a longitudinal wave rather than a transverse wave. But according to this equation, that part is 0. So there is no question of the longitudinal wave in the case of wave equation, electromagnetic wave equation. And that is why the electromagnetic waves are called transverse wave. So as I told that since the transverse property is maintained by the electromagnetic wave, therefore this y polarized wave will be a solution, or it is a correct one when the wave is propagating along the z direction. Similarly, this x polarized wave can also be possible, but a z polarized wave cannot possible while it is propagating along the z direction. So it is the more general one, therefore, in absence of the Z component, so this will be the general one. And next I have summarized all my lecture by listing all type of polarizations over here. The first one represents the X polarized wave or Y polarized wave. I have represented only one of them because in free space it is not possible to identify the X polarized wave or Y polarized wave individually. But when it enters in a particular medium, so there it may be possible to find the X polarized or Y polarized wave individually. So this falls in the category of linearly polarized wave. Next one is the 45-degree linearly polarized wave when both of the X component and the Y component of the electric field exist in the expressions, but since the magnitude are same, so they are not directing along a particular direction, either X or Y, but they are taking a direction which is resultant of the X and Y. So that is the 45-degree polarization wave, which is also falling in the category of linearly polarized wave. Next was the circularly polarized wave. One is right hand circularly polarized wave, and another was the left handed circularly polarized wave. So right handed circularly polarized wave means the polarization rotates as time evolves. The polarization of the electric field rotates circularly on a right hand side, and the left hand circularly means as time evolves the electric field, the polarization which depends upon the direction of the electric field, that rotates on the left hand side. But observing from these two diagrams or these two animations, you can identify that it is rotating in the left hand side and it is rotating on the right hand side. But I am telling that it is right handed circularly and it is left handed circularly, because there is the convention from of the observations from where you are observing. Basically these animations you are observing from the receiving point, but a microwave engineer generally defines the polarization or circular polarizations from the source point, that is from here. So if you see from the source point, it is truly right-handed circularly polarized wave, and it is also a left-handed circularly polarized wave. However, the convention of looking from the observation point or the receiving point is also possible, but such kind of conventions are generally being used by the people who deals with the optical frequencies. And the last one is represented by the elliptical polarized wave, and there are lots of type of elliptical polarized wave available, and that depends upon the variations of the magnitude in the magnitude of the electric field along the x direction and the y direction. So that depends upon the major axis and the minor axis, which are being defined by the amplitude in along the x direction and the y direction. So up to my last lecture, what I have discussed all about the electric field, their polarizations, their orientations, I have found the wave equation in terms of the electric field. I didn't utter a single word for the magnetic field yet. But if there is a electric field, and since I have, as I told in my first lecture, that when an wave is propagating, so there is an electric field, time varying electric field, which is producing a magnetic field. Similarly, a time varying magnetic field must produce an electric field. So we have defined our wave equation using the electric field. But since the electric field is both the time varying and space varying, so there must be a magnetic field associated with that electric field. And that, how to find that magnetic field associated with each type of polarizations, that I'm going to discuss in this lecture. Next is the intrinsic impedance. Intrinsic impedance is, you can visualize or you can imagine, is like the Ohm's law, where the resistance come in equations of V and I. So V, if you consider, is a electric field, and I is if you consider the magnetic field, because yes, you can consider it is, because an electric field has a unit of volt per meter and the magnetic field has a unit of ampere per meter. So basically they are nothing but voltages and current per meter. So therefore the intrinsic impedance come in a same fashion the resistance appears in the Ohm's law. So I will discuss about these things. But intrinsic impedance, as it is called impedance, so it is obviously a complex term. Loss tangent. A loss tangent is one of the most important thing I'm going to discuss in this lecture, because using the loss tangent you can identify whether the medium is a lossy medium or a non-lossy medium, or by what percentage it is a lossy, by what percentage it is a non-lossy, or it is a dielectric medium. Those things you can identify using this loss tangent. So these three things will be covered in this lecture. This is the equation that I have derived through my couple of last lectures, and here this E naught represents the polarizations of the electric field. Gamma along with this e to the power j omega t, I mean gamma dot r along with the e to the power j omega t represents the propagations of the wave in a particular direction. Here the gamma represents the propagation of the wave is taking place in a medium where sigma not equals to 0, which means it is a lossy medium. Why I am taking the lossy medium first over here? Because if you remember, I have started my discussion with the electric field from the lossy medium. So here also I will first derive the magnetic field, I mean corresponding magnetic field associating with the electric field in the lossy medium, and then I will go for the non-lossy medium. However, this expression you can also write in this way, where you know any vector can be represented by its magnitude times its unit vector. So here this is a vector which I have represented its magnitude times the unit vector, because this vector containing three components along the x, along the y, and along the z. So therefore, if the polarization of the wave is not aligned along any of the principal axes, that means either x or y or z, then obviously the polarization is along a resultant direction in a similar way that I have explained in the case of 45-degree linearly polarized wave. Therefore, in those cases, the unit vector will be some other direction other than the principal axes. Therefore, you can write or you can take the unit vector out from this vector, and you can write this equation in this way, where E naught is nothing but considering or taking all those three components along the different direction. But how can we find out the corresponding magnetic field? The way goes through the Faraday's law. Yes, because already we know the expression of the electric field, this one. Now what you have to do, you just have to consider this part, and the time derivative part you can easily resolve, because this magnetic field, as was shown over here, that this electric field contains both the space coordinate and space dependent term as well as the time dependent term. So does the magnetic field over here. And I have explained in my first lecture that the time dependent part can be taken out as a product with the space dependent part of the electric or the magnetic field and with a e to the power j omega t factor, and such kind of representations are called the time harmonic representation. So if you replace this expression of both the electric field on the left hand side of this equation and the magnetic field on the right hand side of the equation using their corresponding time harmonic expression, then this first order time derivative will be operated on this e to the power j omega t, while the space derivative will not be operated over this e to the power j omega t, because this is a space derivative. So the resulting equation will come like this. So only j omega term will come out from this j omega t. Well, but what about the directions of the electric field? That means the polarization of the wave. The polarization of the wave will maintain this law. That means it will be derived or it will follow from the Gauss law. That means this is the gamma dot, which is the propagation vector along the direction of the propagation dot the polarizations of the electric field. So this dot product between them is 0, which signifies that if the wave is propagating along the z direction, so the polarization of the electric field will be either x or y or both, but not along the z direction. So this is the limitations we have to maintain. Now you can divide this equation by minus j omega mu on both sides of this equal sign, and this equation will be resulted over here. And where this curl operation is over this vector times this scalar. Yes, this one is a scalar, Why? Because this gamma dot r is being done prior to be operated by this operator. So that is why it is a scalar and it is a vector. Now such kind of curl operation over the scalar time a vector follows the product rules of the curl. And the product rules of the curl follows that first this is a scalar, this is a vector, and the curl when it will be operated over such a product, first the curl becomes gradient when it is operating over the scalar curl over the vector plus the scalar times the curl over the vector. So when you will apply this rule over this equation, the resulting equation will be this one. Now here you can see that the curl is operating over here as it is operating over this vector. Now what is this E naught? E naught is a constant, because you should remember the how I have obtained that E naught. E naught was initially ax x cap plus ay y cap plus az z cap, where this ax, ay and az I have considered the arbitrary constant of the solution from the individual component when I have solved them. That means the xi, yi, zi. So that means for uh, for an infinite medium, whether it is a lossy or it is a lossless, this E naught is a constant. So when the curl is operating over this E naught, so that is going to be 0, because curl is nothing but a time derivative with a direction. So it's going to be 0. So only thing you have with this one. Now you can interchange this curl E over here and this part over here. When you will interchange that, so you can resolve this by negative sign, because the interchanging the order of the curl produces a negative sign. We know that. So therefore you can resolve it. However, you may not do that, or you can do that. I just put this step to make you understand. Now there is a gradient operator. So this gradient grad over this will do what? It will just take this minus gamma out from this e to the power factor, like this. So minus gamma will produce another minus. That is why I have rotated this curl operation further. So that rotation will produce another negative. So though that negative, the first negative from this gamma, and due to the rotation of this curl, that will produce another negative. So both of those negatives gets cancelled finally over here. And I have obtained this equation. Now, since it is the propagation vector and it is the polarization vector, so I can take I can perform this operation. So I can decompose this vector into their magnitude part and their unit vector part. So therefore, E naught represents its magnitude, while this E naught is its unit vector, and this gamma is representing the magnitude of this vector, while this n cap gamma is representing the unit vector. So this unit vector actually signifies the direction of the propagation of the wave. So the magnetic field, on the other hand, is directing on the direction where this cross product is directing. So that means the magnetic field is directing perpendicular to the plane containing this propagation vector and the magnetic field vector. So initially, from the Gauss law, that is the divergence D is equals to 0, divergence E is equals to 0, we have obtained, or we have seen, the polarization vector must be along in a direction that is not aligned to the direction of the propagation, or in other words, the polarization will be always perpendicular to the direction of the propagation. Fine. And from this curl operation, what I have obtained? I have obtained that this is the direction of the propagation and this is the direction of the polarization. So the magnetic field always will be directed perpendicular to the plane containing the direction of the propagation and the direction of the polarization. So electric field and the polarization field, electric field is perpendicular to the direction of the polar propagation, and magnetic field is perpendicular to both of them. So basically these three, direction of the propagation, uh, electric field vector and the magnetic field vector are mutually perpendicular to each other. Yes, so this is the direction of the H. And that is I am defining by a new unit vector, that is H naught cap, which is nothing but this one, where the magnitude of this gamma or the mod gamma is nothing but the first expression or the initial expression what I have derived in my first slide. Once you have this equation, so after a little algebraic manipulation, you can find that, or you can rearrange this term in such a way that if you replace the magnitude of the gamma by its expression and along with the j omega mu over here, so you can configure this equation where this eta represents this one, and it is directly coming from the expression of the mod gamma divided by g omega mu. You can easily derive this equation over here. So what does this eta means? This eta signifies, or it is called, the intrinsic impedance of the medium. What it is? Let's see. Now, this magnitude of the electric field divided by this intrinsic of this impedance of this medium can be considered as the magnitude of the magnetic field. So there is a magnitude of the magnetic field, and this is the unit vector along the direction of the magnetic field. So you can finally write in this way also, where you can take this direction of the magnetic field within this magnitude part, and you can write in a vector form. So this magnetic field contains all of its individual components over there, and this magnetic field is equals to the electric field divided by the intrinsic impedance. Now look at this expression, what it is. Here the electric field, what is the unit of the electric field? Volt per meter. This is the magnetic field. What is the unit of a magnetic field? Ampere per meter. Now take the ratio volt per meter divided by ampere per meter, which is equals to the intrinsic impedance of the medium eta, which means that is nothing but volt divided by the ampere. Ohm's law. So basically that is why it is called the impedance, intrinsic impedance of the medium. That means due to the intrinsic property of the medium, intrinsic property means the mu, epsilon, sigma, these are the intrinsic properties. So due to their intrinsic properties of the medium, the impedance the medium offers to the incoming electromagnetic wave is this one, and it has the similar impact as a resistance uh, does to the incoming current. But here this intrinsic impedance is complex in nature. From its expression you can see over here. So complex intrinsic impedance means what? So it has a real part and it has an imaginary part. So the real part causes the dissipation or the loss associated with the sigma, and the imaginary part causes the storing of the energy. So it stores the energy like L and C, capacitor and inductor. We'll see. I'll discuss later on this particular topic. Now a little bit on the intrinsic impedance. So the intrinsic impedance, as I told, it is complex in nature. Therefore you can write in terms of the magnitude part times the phase part of it. The magnitude part you can easily derive in this way, and it is also available. This derivation is also available in many standard books also. So this is the magnitude part, and this is the theta eta, or which is the phase of this intrinsic impedance. So how this magnitude and the phase are going to influence our magnetic field? So initially there was this intrinsic impedance, the complex intrinsic impedance. Now I have replaced that complex intrinsic impedance by its magnitude and phase. The next step is I can keep the magnitude over here as it is, but this e to the power j theta eta I can club it with the beta r, where I have taken this attenuation constant out from the gamma. So in order to take this theta within this factor. So what does it mean? It means that for a medium, for a lossy medium, the electric field which doesn't contain this factor, but the magnetic field is containing this factor. That signifies that the position or the time when or where the electric field gets generated, the magnetic field gets generated after a while or after some distance apart. So basically the magnetic field lags behind the electric field. So and the lagging is by this factor. The loss tangent, this one is the most important one, the loss tangent. We know this is the conduction current. Jc is equals to sigma Es, and this Jc comes in the Ampere's law. We know this is the displacement current. This also appeared in the Ampere's law, and this appeared in terms of the time derivative. And here I have written Es. That means I have replaced the uh, total electric field by its time harmonic field, and this time derivative uh, took out this j omega term over here. Now, if I take the ratio of this magnitude of the conduction current to the dielectric current or displacement current is basically flows or found within the dielectric. Okay, so the ratio will provide us this. Now, why we are taking this ratio? Because this. So this is the displacement current. It has a J, so that is why it is 90-degree or it is a perpendicular to this, or it is a 90-degree phase over this real sigma Es we can consider. Now this tan theta, which is equals to this, is represented by the conduction current, magnitude of the conduction current divided by the magnitude of the displacement current, is nothing but sigma by omega epsilon. That represents by what amount the medium is dielectric in nature or conducting in nature. That means this one. If theta goes to 0 or tends to 0, theta tends to 0 means sigma tends to 0, or this part tends to infinity. In general, sigma tends to 0 is much more appropriate one. So if sigma tends to, the conductivity tends to 0, that signifies that the medium is tending towards a dielectric medium. So theta tends to 0 means if this vector is going to align along the vertical axis, that means the j omega epsilon Es, so that is going to define the medium as a dielectric medium, because this vector then is going to align with the displacement current axis. So the displacement current is basically found in a dielectric medium. And if sigma goes to infinity, or it is going to very larger than this one, so tan theta tends to 90-degree. That signifies it is a conductor, or the medium is much more conductor than it's the dielectric. The complex permittivity. The complex permittivity, the term what I have discussed in my first lecture, where I made a comparison between two kind of notations, one using gamma, another using k naught times the complex refractive index. So there I have used the term complex permittivity. So here I will show you what it is actually. So this is nothing but the Ampere's law, which is equivalent to the summation of both of these conduction current and the displacement current. And from here, if you take this j omega term out and you rename this factor by anything, so that represents the complex permittivity, where this complex permittivity should have a real part as well as one imaginary part. The real part is nothing but the actual permittivity, what the material contains, and the imaginary part is equals to the conductivity divided by the frequency. So the imaginary part is frequency dependent. So it depends upon the frequency. For the low frequency, the imaginary part is much more higher, and for higher frequency, this is much more lower. Another representation of this equation is that instead of this one, if you take this epsilon out, so j omega epsilon out from over here, so this sigma by j omega epsilon, or the sigma by omega epsilon, I just told in my last slide that this one is the loss tangent, and therefore you can directly put the loss tangent over here. So that signifies that if the individual property of the medium are known, it's fine. But if it is not known and the loss tangent is known, then also it can easily be found out these magnetic field and the associated terms. And obviously the nature of the medium can also be identified using the loss tangent. Let's see our fields at a glance. So this is the electric field we have obtained throughout my last couple of lectures, and this is the corresponding magnetic field associated with the electric field, and it has the polarization. The magnetic electromagnetic wave has the polarization that depends solely on the direction of the electric field, and the corresponding magnetic field is this one. And here the magnetic field and electric field follows this relation, where in this relation this represent this mod of eta represents the magnitude of the intrinsic impedance, where the intrinsic impedance, the phase term, appears in this expression of the magnetic field. That signifies that the electric field leads over the magnetic field, and this represents the directions of the that means the direction of the magnetic field is perpendicular to the direction of the propagation vector and to the electric field. That means this one. If this one is the electric field, this is the propagation vector, obviously the magnetic field will be perpendicular to this plane, So E naught n gamma plane, on this plane the magnetic field is perpendicular. In a similar way, you can conclude that if it is, then the direction of the propagation is nothing but the cross product between the electric field and the magnetic field, like this. So if you take the cross product in this way, so that is going to define the direction of the propagation. Once you know the general solution of the electric field and magnetic field from the lossy medium, you can easily identify the corresponding electric field and magnetic field for the lossless medium, because the lossless medium is characterized by only the conductivity is equal to 0. And the conductivity is equal to 0 means the attenuation constant is equal to 0. I have talked lots of things about this thing in my earlier lectures when I was discussing the electric field only for the medium of same medium, isotropic, lossless, source free and homogeneous medium. So here also the same approach will be applicable. So the alpha equals to, or the attenuation constant will be 0. Alpha is a component of this attenuation constant. So this attenuation constant is equal to 0 will leave this factor unchanged. And similarly over here also. The phase constant, which represents or which is associated with the propagation of the electric field or the magnetic field, or as a whole the electromagnetic wave, must not be equal to 0, and here it is. It is equals to k naught times the refractive index. This is a real refractive index. Next, the intrinsic impedance. In the expression of the intrinsic impedance, which contains this factor sigma, if you put that is equal to 0, this equation will be resulted. And the angle which gets produced due to the complex intrinsic impedance, that becomes 0 due to sigma is equal to 0. What does it signify? It signifies that since theta eta, this phase gets included within this magnetic field, which was representing in the case of lossy medium that the magnetic field was lagging behind this electric field, but now it is not lagging. At the same position, at the same instant with the electric field, the magnetic field also gets generated. In this slide, I have represented both the electric field and magnetic field for 45-degree linearly polarized wave, right hand circularly polarized wave, and left hand circularly polarized wave. And look at here, the electric field is directing along this direction, and here the magnetic field is directing along this direction, perpendicular, while the wave propagation is taking place along the z direction, that is kz direction, as the propagation vector I have drawn over here. In the case of right hand circularly polarized wave, look how the phase is changing. When the red magnitude is appearing somewhere, the red magnitude for the magnetic field is appearing just 90° out of phase with this, which represents that these two vectors, the electric field and the magnetic field, they are perpendicular to it. Similarly, the same thing is applicable for the left hand circularly polarized wave also.